Hey there, I'm the developer of Advanced GUI. Advanced GUI is a system to create interactive GUIs in Minecraft using item frames and maps. And this should be a brief overview tutorial on how to use the system. We will start by creating the layouts in the web editor and just taking a look at the web editor and how it works, and then see how to use those layout files in-game. All right, let's get started with the web editor. If you already have purchased the plugin, you can go to our Discord server and verify yourself, which should give you a license key. The process is completely automatic, so it just takes a few seconds. Most features in the web editor are available without the license key. Just to download the finished layout file, you will need this key. So yeah, if you already have it, you can click on the top right here. Enter your license key, hit remember key if you want the browser to remember it so you don't have to retype it every time, and then just click save license key. Okay, now we are ready to go. The first thing you see is that I already have a few projects. You probably won't at this point. So the projects are stored in your browser, which is pretty convenient. You just have to watch out if you hear your browser data or anything, those projects might be lost. But you can also import the projects back from your layout files. So if you download the files to put them on your server, you can just re-import those files, so that shouldn't be an issue. Anyway, let's get started with creating our first layout. We just click on create new project, which gives us a blank project. Let's take a look at what we have here. So first we have a button to go back to the menu where all our layouts are. We see this is our new one. We can just click to open it. Then we have here a few informations like shortcuts and other stuff. Shortcuts are pretty useful if you want to work a bit quicker with the editor. Here we can rename our project. So for example, let's say tutorial. We can specify the size of the layout. So let's do 2x2. If you want an handheld GUI, so something you don't have to place on a wall, but the user can hold in his hand, it should be a 1x1, because the user will just be holding a map, which is just 1x1 frame. Maybe a quick info, because we get asked it a lot. One frame is 128 pixels by 128 pixels. That might be useful if you want to pixel your own images or something. Yeah. Moving on, we have the live sync button. This is a very useful feature if you want to work fast. This enables you to get the changes you do in the editor within a few seconds to your server without downloading any files or anything. But this is something maybe for a different tutorial. Then we have a save button, which just saves your changes to the browser. And we have a download button, which gives you the file that you put on your Minecraft server to actually use the layout in-game. Let's start by adding our first component. You see there are a lot of components. We have rectangle components, text, images, dynamic images, GIFs, hover components, click animations, checks, text inputs, and a few more. My recommendation would be to visit our wiki page and read up on those components to see which one does what, because they give you great options in creating very creative layouts. But we'll just go ahead and create a rectangle component and a text component. So what we see here is on the left, we have our component tree, which gives us the order in which the components are rendered. So if we move the rectangle just by drag and drop above the text, we see the text will be under the rectangle. And on the right, we can see the finished GUI, so to say, and we can just click, drag the components, resize them for some components. And yeah, so when we select a component, on the right-hand side, we have the options for this component. So each component can have a name. This is just a display name for the editor. So for example, we could say, I don't know, this could be important text. So just that you don't have like 5 text components on the left and you don't know which one is which, you can just rename them to have, well, a little bit more structure. Then every component has an individual ID, which just identifies the component. Then a component can be visible or not. And yeah, that's pretty much the general settings. Then every component can have a click action. This is executed when the component is clicked. We will look at this later. Then we can specify, and then we have the custom component settings where each component has different settings. For example, for the text, we can change the text color. We can change what the text says. For example, we can say click me. We can say whether the component has placeholders or not. We can say the text size or the font type. We can even upload our custom font. So for each component, we have a lot of settings. Same goes for the rectangle. For example, we can say the border radius. We can set the border radius, which makes the rectangle a little bit rounded. And maybe just to show you one more type of component, we will add a group component, which gives us the option to group components together. So we just drag and drop our 2 components into this group component. And now when we click on the component, we can move them together as one unit. We can also stack multiple group components into one another, so we can make really complicated GUIs. And now let's add some functionality to this GUI. So we will add a click action on this group. We could also add the click action just on the text or just on the rectangle, but we will add it to the group. So if any component in this group is clicked, the click action will be executed. We just click on the right side to add a click action. Once again, we see we have a lot of options for different click actions. Again, I would recommend reading up on what those actions do on our wiki page. But for example, we could send a message to the player. You have been healed. I don't know, healed. Well, let's just type it like this. And then execute a command heal player and set it to run as console. But we can also make more complex actions. Maybe just to show you an example, we could add an item check maybe. So only if the player has 3 gold ingots, we send a command to actually heal the player. Well, let's delete this command and move this command up into here. So now only if the player has 3 gold, this command gets executed. And we can also say that if the player does not have the gold, so we drag it also into the check, he will get the message, well, just let's say no gold. And we can even stack more check actions into this one check. So we could make, if the player has 3 gold and 5 money units. So you see, we can make pretty complicated actions, which gives us a lot of options. Maybe one thing to point out here is that you get a lot of options by using Placeholder API, because Advanced GUI supports a lot at a lot of places. We have support for placeholders, and almost every plugin has some sort of placeholders. So for example, just to maybe show you what I mean, we can add a placeholder check. We already have an example here. So using the placeholder armor has chest, we can check if the has chest plate. We can check whether the player is wearing a chest plate, and based on that information, if this placeholder equals true, we can then execute an action. So you see, this is pretty complicated logic, but placeholders enables us to do this. There are also check components here on the left, which allow us to render different components depending on whether a placeholder has a certain value. So we could, for example, draw a green rectangle when the placeholder when the player has a chest plate on, and a rectangle when he doesn't have a chest plate on. But that's maybe too advanced for this quick overview. Just to give you a brief idea, or maybe you have also that you have already heard it, that something like this is possible. But anyway, let's delete this component. We just hit delete and save this to the browser. So when we go back, we can see that the project is actually saved. And now we want to add it to our server. We just do that by pressing the download button, which will load for a second, and then give us this layout file, which we drag and drop into our layout folder. So now that we are in game, we are going to do /ag reload to reload the layout files from the folder. Once this is done, we can do /ag layouts to see which layouts have been loaded, and we can actually see our tutorial layout here, which is size 2x2, so that was successful. And now we are going to build a wall for this layout, which should be a 2x2 wall. And we want to cover this wall with item frames where we can place that layout, just like this. And then we place the layout with /ag place, then the layout name, which in our case is tutorial. And then we can specify the invisible flag, which will just hide the item frames where we place our layout on. We will see that in a second. So we just confirm the comment and then right click the top left item frame where we want to place the layout. So this would be this one. We just click and now we see that the layout is working. We can see the wood beneath. This is what the invisible flag does, and you don't see any item frames anymore. If we remove the invisible flag, we can actually see that there are still the item frames, but you probably won't want that. So we use the invisible flag again to hide those item frames. Now, when we right-click the button, we get the message "you have been healed," which we have typed in, and the message "no gold," because we don't have any gold. And we checked for that in the layout, but if we give ourselves some gold and click again, we now don't get the no gold message anymore, but the command actually gets executed, as we can see there. So this seems to be working very great. And if we want to remove the layout again, we do /ag break and then just right click any of the item frames and the layout is gone. So yeah, that should sum it up on how to work with the system from start to finish. I hope this has given you a brief overview of how everything works. And if you have any further questions or issues, please feel free to join our Discord server. We have a great community there, and our support is very active, so we should be able to help you out quickly. Also, once again, I would like to point out that we have a wiki page where there's a lot of additional information which might help you out. And yeah, have a great day.